This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word, speaking today to the two peoples that are on this earth, the Jew first and to the Gentile second. In the book of James, which actually, if you want to know the truth, you could canonize the book of James, put it in the Torah, put it in the scrolls, back it up a few thousand years and put it in with the Old Testament and back it up by Jacob. Jacob, the father of the 12 tribes. To the 10 tribes, the 10 boys that Jacob mentioned from his first boy on. And when he gave him the land, each one, when he gave him the land, he exclaimed, or he said what type of boy that was. There were 4 types of dispositions that he was dealing with. He was dealing with dispositions of the human aspect of the personage of in that particular case, these were Jewish boys. They were the heads of the families. They were, if you please, the ancestors of all, not just the Jewish nation, but of all that would be God's children. And they were the faithful in the fact that they had a part of them that was to follow the God of heaven according to the rules of the Jewish laws, whether it be dietary or physical or medical or the family plan or whatever. It was all, everything was directed by God through people who penned down the laws that needed to be in Leviticus and on through. And there are those people who are easily agreed and easily pacified. There was in those 10 boys one that was easily agreed and he was easily pacified. And that was a type of disposition of that person. And then there were those that was easily agreed and difficult to appease. A lot of people will agree easily, they'll agree, but then they're very difficult to bring all the way across the board and over in to that the finalizing of that agreement. And it's like walking up to a agreement to do something that was going to be a multi-million-dollar thing, and all the way up to the signing of the paper. Until the paper's signed, the deal's not complete. If you walk away and don't sign the paper, you annul the agreement that you had done all the work on and brought it to that place. How many people are going to bring something that could actually come about and be $1 million agreement and not sign that paper at the end of it? And not very many people will walk away from that. And that's what he's saying. There are people that are that difficult, would say, well, if you ain't going to agree to sweeping the floor every day after we sign this paper, when this building's finished, I want it swept every day from top to bottom, every single day. And you say, well, I won't agree to that. And you won't sign the paper and you lose the deal. Well, that's kind of like the promise of God was to the Jewish people. It was to follow through, all the way through, not quit halfway through, not quit 2/3 of the way through, not quit and lose your own soul because you'll be separated from God eternally because of your disposition. And then a third thing is they're not easily agreed and are easily appeased. They don't agree easily, but you can appease them with words. And the words will appease them, and they'll say, well, I'm not in agreement with that, but I will go along with it, and I will be appeased with it, and I'll go ahead and sign that final paper, and we'll be finalized in the deal, whether it be spiritual, physical, or whatever. And then the fourth kind of disposition there is not easily agreed and difficult to appease. Now, there are those people who were born, and Ed Blow used to say it better than anybody I ever heard anybody say it, and were born in a nude agenda in a kickity mood, and could never figure out in life what they wanted to be. They just couldn't figure it out. They just wanted to be difficult, very difficult to manage, or to ever be managed, or to manage themselves, or to ever manage anything. And they're very difficult people. By the way, these four dispositions, not dispensations, but dispositions of people. I have these four dispositions in my family. My daddy was considered kind of mulish, and sometimes people would get so upset at him they would even call him a jackass, and kicking against everything and going upstream instead of flowing with the stream. He'd go upstream, and that's what we're supposed to do. If you have the leading of God, God will give you one paddle. And you can take that one paddle and you can paddle the rapids with it, as long as God is in control of the paddle. As long as God's in control of the paddle, you can paddle upstream. When you take God out of the equation, you're going to have to flow downstream, because your paddle won't work. Your paddle's not wide enough. Your paddle's not big enough. It's not going to work. When James was writing, he was writing to the Jewish people, and one thing he wrote here, and he said, pray to the Father. There were 7 ways to get answers from prayer for the Jewish people. One of the ways was to pray to the Father, and that was it. I mean, that was the first way that you got. You can't get an answer if prayer is not prayed. So you had to pray the prayer, and you prayed it to the Father. And then the second thing was, after Jesus came and died on the cross, the way to pray it to the Father is through the Son. You know, when the veil was rent, there was no more way to be able to come directly in the presence of God, except by the way and the plan that God made. He ended one dispensation and started another. And when he started that other, he did it through Jesus Christ. Anybody in their right mind that would take Genesis 1:1 and come up through and stop at the book of Habakkuk and not step into Matthew, there's something wrong with them. Malachi, the 400 years between the two books, and stop right there. Just take Josephus and take the historians and go to them. Do you know that many of the historians that did history did not announce their salvation in Jesus Christ, but they were willing to explore it and to say, I can't refute it. They couldn't refute it. They could not, the historians could not refute it. Yet, many Israelis and many Jewish people would like to refute the New Testament by not getting into it. Hey, anything that's not explored or not studied, you can't just disannul it if you haven't given it some credence. You've got to give it some credence. Give it some credence. Study it and then tell me. You study it and then tell me that it's not true. If I challenge you today, any single solitary Hebrew out there today, I challenge you to step into the New Testament study